So when I eventually discovered that buying a house and going and living in it wasn't actually a smart investment, that's when I started to really take notice and question everything else about money, about how to get ahead, about being financially free, all these things. And like a lot of you that might be watching this to be intrigued about what I'm about to talk about, I have always wanted to be financially free. Since I was young, since I was a young lad, I've just always wanted to be, I've wanted the riches, I've wanted the status, I've wanted the cars, the house, the whole thing. I've wanted all of the fancy shit. And I was driven to get out of really like a hard situation to be completely autonomous. That was like my number one goal. And so, like a lot of you, I was taught from my family and from experiences passed down to me and from like where I lived and my proximity from where I was taught to buy the home, save up a lot of money, settle, get the dog, white picket fence, do the whole life thing, on easy mode and to be safe. That was how it was passed down to me. And like a lot of you that will probably be watching this will be very similar. And so for me, something just didn't sit right with me about that. I never conformed to that belief. And while I still was like, this makes sense, I started to educate myself about money a bit. And I'm getting around to kind of the point of this because for me, I always wanted to be financially ahead. And everyone that I saw I was learning off in my early 20s didn't have the things that I wanted. And so I was kind of like, why the fuck should I listen to this person if they don't actually have the life that I want? And the life that I wanted was the extravagant stuff. And when you have those beliefs and that feeling, it's kind of like you kind of get a little bit like, silenced a bit because anyone who hasn't achieved that and hears that from someone else, a lot of the time that desire that you have will be squashed because it's mirroring something in them that they never either achieved and wanted to achieve for themselves. Because let's be honest, a lot of people want to be financially free in this time and age, especially in my, again, the proximity of my life where I've had a relatively normal upbringing. So anyway, when I started to educate myself about money and I learned things like buying a home is actually a trap when you go and live in the thing and your income isn't high enough to facilitate buying assets that actually move you forward, not backwards. I was like, well, what the hell else am I either not knowing about and don't understand about money to be able to move forward? And what else do I need to learn so I can do that? And so I've gotten to a point in my life now where I have a healthy income, but I'm still learning about investing. And I would say that I am definitely further ahead than the majority of people. And that's the point of this video. I'm not saying I'm ahead of everyone and I don't care to be. The point of this video is I'm making it for those of you who are either coming into a little bit of money, want to earn a lot and want to have, a proper, genuine, meaty income that really allows you to live freely, which I have to an extent. So I feel as though I am qualified to kind of talk on this. And I'm sort of talking to the younger version of myself who wanted all this stuff because he was always crying out for like this life. And now that I have it, I'm like, I need to pay it back and I owe to pay it back. So I'm going to give you 3 things that in my experience and from the context of my life and from the context of where I want to go will either help you or not. And whether you want to take the advice from this or not is entirely up to you. But I want to make a point. This is not financial advice. I'm not your accountant. I'm not doing your numbers. Don't come to me if you start making decisions based off this video and like it's not on me, it's on you. So it's not financial advice. So the first thing that is the most important thing above all else when it comes to getting ahead financially is creating a cash-rich machine. And what does that look like? It looks like a business. You need to have an income high enough that facilitates you buying assets to be able to move you forward in investing. The reason why the home buying the home at an income level that isn't high enough to facilitate getting something else that's going to continue moving you forward and growing that wealth. The reason why that's a trap is because it's essentially just forced savings. And usually the 30-year mortgage, especially here in Australia, I don't know what it's like in other countries if you're watching from other countries, but here in Australia, I was talking about it with a friend of mine and He's even further ahead than me, owns his own place. And we talked about the fact that the 30 plus year mortgage is essentially, it's for savings, but what it doesn't allow you to do is it doesn't allow you to free up liquidity, money, to be able to then go and do more with that money and continue moving your money forward. It shrinks you down because you must sacrifice liquidity, usually upfront as well if you have to put a big deposit down. And a lot of the time you don't have to put a big deposit down if you're getting a really long-term loan. And it shrinks you down because you haven't got options. You start to have to shrink your lifestyle to be able to afford to do what you're doing. And unless you have a plan, a strong plan with a smaller income, and that's all this is. Like usually people's income is pretty in the average zone. So if you're in that average zone, generally speaking, you've upfronted a lot of liquidity and then you're paying mostly interest. Like that's one of the biggest things. You're paying mostly interest on that massive loan for the first few years. You don't actually pay, if any, principal whatsoever to be able to get forward. And that's why the whole buying a home is just, it didn't make sense to me. And then when I learned this, I was like, holy fuck. Like, why would I buy a house? That's exactly why I rent, because I put money in different spots, and I'll get to that point. But by having the cash rich machine, by building a business that gives you cash flow high enough to facilitate you having options to do with that money and learn about investing and learn about where to intelligently put your money, then that cash flow machine will give you those options. And so to build a business that allows you to have high profit margins so that you can live based off the lifestyle that you either want and the wealth that you want to build is just the number one thing. At the end of the day, even if you are investing, it's a long-term play. You're not investing isn't for you to live free next year. That's creating the cash flow. That's what you want to be doing to create the cash flow so you can live the way you want to live. But by putting your money in intelligent places, whether it's ETFs, whether it's property, whether it's cryptocurrency, things that are long-term, that are assets that increase your money over time and are safer bets, then the income needs to be there to be able to facilitate that. And your vision is not here. Your vision is down the track. Your vision is later me. That's the first part. And I guess what it comes down to is you need to learn how to build a business. You need to learn how to build a cash rich machine. And like the point of this video isn't to tell you how to do that. It's like, that's something that is a learned thing. But if you don't have a high enough income, going out and maybe, like, again, not financial advice, but going out and buying a house might not allow you to move forward as much as what you think it might. The second thing is education. Education on money. I started learning from Lewis Mocker, and I knew that he was good with money because he had all the life that I wanted. He had the Lamborghini, he had the really beautiful penthouse apartment, he was just like stress-free. He was like loving his life all the time. He didn't even seem to work, but he loved what he did, the energy he gave me. And he taught me everything there was about being intelligent with your finances. And I started to learn how to invest in ETFs. And the thing that blew my mind about that part of it was he compared the fact that you have a certain percentage of return on a home and then a certain percentage of return on ETFs. And the return on an ETF over this, again, we're talking long-term, the return on an ETF is so much healthier than a home, especially with the fact it doesn't require upkeep. Just remember, if you buy a house, you need to upkeep the thing. You've got rates, you've got repairs, you've got maintenance, you've got all this stuff that is usually unforeseen to you. So when you're in the place and the fucking heater breaks down and you got to fix the thing, like if you own ETFs long-term, you haven't got shit to fix. There's nothing to fix. Like the market fluctuates, but there's nothing to maintain. When I learnt that from him, my entire outlook on finances completely changed. And so to educate yourself on finance and money and what's going to work best for you and your lifestyle is going to be one of the most key things. Without the education piece, how are you supposed to know? And most people just make random things based off their beliefs from the lessons that they've learned and passed down to them. They don't actually have their own internal beliefs. And so when you educate yourself, there is no bias. It's like, I want to be biased to the things that I actually get energy from and the things that I want for myself. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like it could be to own the Lamborghini. It could be, to own a home. And at the end of the day, like it's only up to you how you want to live. So educate yourself based on from the people that have done what you want to do. And the education piece will allow you to make super smart decisions, especially when it really comes down to like the long-term you. Like obviously next week you is going to be an entirely different story when you're 40, 50, 60 years old. So educate yourself now so you know where to put your money and put it in smart places. And the third thing is to spend your money and also earn it in a way that is accustomed to the lifestyle that you want and the person that you want to become. There's no doubt as I've gotten older, I've become a lot less privy to material stuff. I always thought that I wanted a Lamborghini, and don't get me wrong, it'd still be nice, but by doing that now, it would only put me under enormous pressure. And do I actually want that for my lifestyle? No, because I've learned that for me to have peace of mind, to be stress-free, and to not have to worry about where my next dollar's coming from is so much more valuable to me than having a really expensive car worth a house in my garage. And I learned that through maturity, obviously, but also the fact that as life has progressed and as I've done business and as I've earned more money and as I've started to put money in different places, I've learned more about who I am and what I actually want for my future. And for you, it's always lifestyle dependent. Don't spend your money based on what you feel other people should want for your life. That is the biggest trap. It's keeping up with the Joneses. It doesn't work because eventually you'll be found out. You start buying shit just to impress other people, you'll end up getting found out. You will be miserable. I did that. I did that whole thing. I started to do shit where I was like, other people will validate me for doing this and making this choice. And I was fucking miserable. And that's why I still rent a place that's worth $450 a week. That's why I don't own a home. I have zero debt. I live in a way that allows me to appease the lifestyle that I want now, but also put my money in smart places because my income's high enough so that I can invest for my future too. Because by the time I'm 60 and I've done this, the trajectory is already there. I've got the spreadsheets, I've got everything. I've educated myself to know when I'm going to be financially free, which looks like being able to live off an income that just continues to spit out money every single month off the back of my investments so that I can live without having to work anymore. That happens by the time I'm 60, 70 years old. That's not happening anytime soon. And of course, there's always things like, oh, what happens if there's an economic collapse and all that sort of thing. We've been through multiple economic collapses. So don't even start to talk to me about that because we've survived. Here we are. We've done COVID. We've done the GFC. We've done them all. And people are still earning shitloads of money and they're still investing in places where they're getting their money back without having to do a thing. So I've done the numbers and to me, that's a safe enough bet. So my lifestyle now, I live it in a way that I enjoy right now and also can plan for my future. And the only way that I can do that is if my income is high enough to facilitate both things. And I've made that sacrifice. I want to be able to go out and spend a couple of grand on dinner and doing some crazy shit with my mates and being fine with money, as well as flying business class on my trips away so that I can be in comfort and actually have enough legroom because I'm 6'4" and I don't want to have to sit in economy seats so my knees are pressed up against the thing. It's like, save money. It's like, fuck that. No way. I want to sit in comfort and lie down and go to sleep when I go overseas. Like, I'm not interested in that stuff. I want those creature comforts at the same time as planning for my future. And so if I bought a Lamborghini as an example, that would destroy my ability to do that. And what do I want more? I already know what I want more. The Lamborghini would be a piece of my life that I would be appeasing for other people, not myself. And so that's where to spend according to you. And it could look like you want a family with kids and a house. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not to say you can't do those things, but it is to say you need to go deep. You need to work out truly who you are and the values that you have so that you can move forward in a way that is authentically about you. It's not about somebody else. It's not a belief that's passed from somebody else, from your mum, your dad, your immediate family, like your sisters, your brothers, their family and what they believe to be true. It's like you make that story. You create that story. And for me, it's actually difficult. It is, because those voices are super loud, and you tend, like, those people usually just want the best things for you. So when they're saying things like settle down, buy a house, do it easy, or not easy, but do it in a way that's comfortable and safe, they think that's safe, and it doesn't sit right with you, there is friction. Naturally, there's friction. So live according to your own values, and you need to work out what they are. No one else can work that out for you. And it could look like anything. It doesn't need to be something that someone else come up with where you're like, oh yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's like, no, you need to do the inner work. You need to work out who you are. You need to work out what it is you actually value. And that can be met with some friction, but trust me when I say, believe me when I say, there are people out there like you. So it doesn't matter what your belief is, it could be anything. You could be, you earn a bunch of money and then you just travel for the rest of your life. Or you've got a partner and you want to go and you want to just live an easy life. And you want to, go and live in a shack and I don't know what you do. Fuck, that's not me. But like, what I'm trying to say is everyone's different and not everyone's life should look the same. You should educate yourself and you should work out what your true values are. So there are three main things that really sprung to mind. There's more, and that you could go deeper on a lot of them. But for me, that's been one of the most profound lessons that I've had to this day and age. I am constantly exploring what my money can do for me, because even to this day, I still have money sitting in places where I'm not sure what I want to do with it yet. And people are like, oh, your money's going down as every year goes past. I'm also just like, yeah, but I can also go and do whatever the fuck I like with it. So at the end of the day, I'm not really stressed on what that money does unless it really appeases my values for where I want to head in my life. And those things can constantly change. So I'm going to continue to work on my business so it keeps on spitting out a lot of it, so that I can do things with it that bring me peace, bring me joy, bring me happiness. I hope you do too. And if this video was helpful, let me know. Send me a message on Instagram, comment below on any questions you have, whatever. Again, I just need to stress, I don't know what the legal shit is, but like, this is not financial advice. This is just experiences from me over time. And hopefully you got something out of it. I'm gonna go enjoy the rest of my Sunday. Cheers.